What's going on? Travis here, TravisStetzel.com, TrainAggressive.com, and wanted to do a video for you here, just answering a very common question that I've been getting a lot from people, just in regards to wanting to become just a total, overall fitter person. So they want to train like an athlete, but they're not competing in a sport. And they just want to become, stronger, faster, leaner, meaner, just all around better across the board. And so what I wanted to talk about is Judgment Day training. I like to call this Judgment Day training because basically what you're doing is you're preparing for basically anything and everything, all right? And with how, the sport of CrossFit has been gaining more popularity and a different type of training like that, just training for, the sport of fitness, basically. Some people don't want to compete in CrossFit, but yet they want to get on that level, so to speak. So they just want to get fitter across the board. So before I go into this, basically what I want to specify is, the difference between Judgment Day training and then like sports specific training, because there is a major difference. With what I'm going to be talking about with Judgment Day training, basically, like I just said, it's preparing you for anything. So being prepared for the absolute worst case scenario, all right? So being strong, able to survive. So there's some Judgment Day stuff going down. You need to be able to survive that. So think of yourself as becoming a badass machine, all right? We're going to dig into that. But before we get into that, a little bit of difference of Judgment Day training versus sports-specific training, all right? So Judgment Day training, not as specific. So we can do things all across the board. So strength, conditioning, all that different stuff. Whereas with sport training, so if you're an athlete in the sport, so for example, like football, baseball, basketball, you can take a lot of components from what I'm going to be talking about with Judgment Day training and apply it to your training, but there's going to be certain aspects with your training that are obviously going to be more specific. So obviously like skill specific training, for football, baseball, all those different sports. You got to keep that specific. And in my opinion, when it comes to sports training, it's got to be progressive in nature. It can't be totally randomized all the time. Whereas I'll talk a little bit about Judgment Day training, how it could be a little bit more random. But with sports specific training, the way I train my athletes, it's progressive. So they're following either a 3 to 4 week phase template, all right? And they're always focusing on progression, and you're staying with the same movements for a certain amount of time instead of always being totally random. So it's really important that you understand there's a difference between Judgment Day training that I'm going to be talking about to turn you into a total badass machine and sports-specific training. Obviously turning you into a badass athlete, that needs to be more specific with the movements that you do and the progressions that you work with. So it's more of a set template versus just randomized. So let's talk a little bit about Judgment Day training and basically how to turn you into a total badass across the board. So if you're somebody that's an ex-athlete, you're not training for sports anymore, you're not training for a specific sport anymore, you just want to become a total badass, you want to get stronger, you want to become a better athlete overall, just for life, basically, all right? So you just want to become a badass, lean and mean, feeling good, all right? So Judgment Day training, we're going to be going over a lot of different things that go into this, all right? So Judgment Day training, first and foremost, the number one thing that goes into this type of training, whether you're an athlete or not, is strength, all right? You've got to be strong. So the number one component of Judgment Day training is going to be strength training, all right? When it comes down to it, the stronger you get, the more badass you'll be, all right? As they say, a person that's strong is going to be a person that's harder to kill, and it's definitely true. The stronger you are, the more that's going to cross over into other things that we're working on. So conditioning, power, all that stuff. The ability to apply force is going to be very, very important. So strength training is always going to be a key with Judgment Day training. So doing heavier lifts, so things with like deadlifts, squats, overhead pressing, you know, weighted pull-ups, different things like that. Getting the body stronger. And it doesn't always have to stick with just, you know, weighted movements. It can go with body weight movements as well. So, you know, working things like handstand push-ups, weighted handstand push-ups, you know, pistol squats, different things like that to work strength, to strengthen the body overall is going to be very, very important. All right. Number 2 is going to be power. All right. So we're going to always want to make sure we're training for power as well. So the ability to be explosive. And the way we add this in is via plyometrics. So lots of jumping, things sprinting, different things like that. And what you want to focus on with power, we can still develop power when we're lifting, even if we're not doing like plyometric stuff. All right, so something that you want to keep focused in your mind is to always lift fast. All right, so if we go back to strength training, say we're lifting something very heavy, so like a bench press or something like that. You know, a lot of people, they tend to lift slow, tempo training. We're not going to worry about any of that bullshit, no tempo training with this. We're always coming down with the weight under control. Boom. We're going to lift that weight as fast as we possibly can. That should be always in the back of your mind, your number one goal. When we're training like this is to lift explosively. So whether that be on a deadlift, we're trying to pull that weight up as heavy or as fast as possible. Even if it's heavy, you're still thinking in your mind, boom, I'm trying to pull that weight up as fast as I can. On a squat, we're going down under control, boom. You should explode up with that weight. Concentric phase of the lift, you're trying to go as fast as you possibly can. So we can still train for power if we're always thinking lift fast. Okay, same thing goes for like body weight movements. If we're doing pull-ups or push-ups, on your push-ups you should be explosively coming up on those lifts. So concentric phase of the lift, that's when we're coming up on a push-up. Boom, we want to come up as fast as we can. And we can do that just thinking to lift fast all the time. All right? Next component of Judgment Day training, we've got strength, power, and what we're going to want to do next is build up some armor. All right? And the best way we'll do that is with assistance movements. All right? So assistance training, all right? And when it comes to Judgment Day training, we're going to steer clear of, you know, strict bodybuilding training, all right? So we're going to want to stick with more athletic-based bodybuilding, all right? So higher volume stuff with like body weight training, so like high rep volume of push-ups, different pushing movements, so handstand push-ups, dips. When it comes to pulling, you know, upper body pulling, rows, pull-ups, we're going to eat that stuff for breakfast. That's going to help us build up some more armor. Now, when we go with weighted movements to build armor assistance movements, that's when we're doing stuff with the barbell, dumbbells, kettlebells, different things like that. We want to keep it athletic based. All right, so we're trying to steer clear of, you know, the strict bodybuilding methods. We want to put more functional, building our armor with assistance movements. All right. Next, so we got strength training first and foremost. We're trying to build a lot of strength, power training. We're building up armor, and then what we're going to do is condition. All right. So there will always be some sort of conditioning aspect to this, and what this is going to do is build up our motor and mindset. All right. So with conditioning, we're building up our motor. So we're building up the ability to, you know, obviously endure more volume, to recover faster. And the way we're going to focus in on conditioning is we're going to keep it short and intense. All right? So with conditioning, intensity is the key. All right? And this is going to tie into the mindset. Okay? So with conditioning, we want to keep our conditioning phases of the workout short and intense. So 8 to 12 minutes tops. We don't really want to go past 12 minutes. And the key is to keep it intense. So anything going past 12 minutes, with most people, they're going to be dying down as far as intensity goes. So instead of focusing in on doing a sprint, it turns in more of a jog. So we want to think of our conditioning as a sprint. So different things that we'll be doing for conditioning, this is when we start to throw in our more random type of training. This type of stuff will be more consistent within your workouts, and conditioning will be more random. So that's when we start to have fun with our conditioning, start working in all our different stuff. So like sandbags, kettlebells, body weight stuff, sleds, different types of conditioning via like hill sprints, 800-meter runs, 400-meter runs, 200-meter runs. And the way that we get better at that is, progressively building up with that. We can utilize different things like intervals. Interval work's going to be good. Repeats. So I mentioned, like 800 meters, 400s, 200s, things like that. So we can easily work this stuff in. And, another question that comes up often is, should I be doing long distance running? So like running like miles or different things like that, getting a lot of road work in. We can build up a ton of conditioning via short, intense conditioning sessions. Because the better you get at this, so say for example like 800, 400, and 200 meters, the better you get at that, when it comes time to run a mile or 2 miles or even further, all you're really going to have to do is just slow down your pace and you'll be able to push right through that. So you really don't have to focus on running long distances really ever until you really have to do it. You can build it up with shorter, more intense distances. All right.